Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 2. So, the good, the pod, and the ugly. What is your pick for Christian Bale films?
2009's Public Enemies, directed by Michael Mann.
So why did you come to this choice?
Well, last year and earlier this year, we did a season where we watched every Michael Mann directed piece, including a couple TV shows. And it was still pretty fresh. And I know Jack and I are big fans, Thomas not so much. But it's one that's really grown in esteem the further we get away from having covered it on the podcast. It's one I think about a lot, particularly the set pieces.
Yeah.
So what happens in Public Enemies?
Well, I mean, it's a classic won't they story, right? Will they, won't they? Where Johnny Depp likes robbing banks and Christian Bale likes stopping bank robbers.
Yeah.
It's a match made in heaven.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A similar dynamic to Heat, Michael Mann's Heat, which everybody has seen. Bale plays lawman Melvin Purvis, who is in part of the nascent FBI tracking down John Dillinger. In real life, the book it's based on covered a lot more of the criminals at the time. Bonnie and Clyde, I think Pretty Boy Floyd, who dies at the start of this film, but in real life, a couple years after.
Babyface Nelson. It's 500 brisk pages of book.
Yes. It's a series of set pieces of Dillinger getting caught, helping people escape, committing robberies, and it's contrasted with Bale, who takes kind of a subordinate role to Depp, who has the big role of Dillinger, is tracking him down. And at one point, he decides that the people he has with him aren't tough enough or bad enough, so they import some borderline cowboys to help track him down. Including Stephen Lang, who's always a pleasure to see.
Yeah.
In typical Mann fashion, both Bale and Depp are very they're very cold characters. He doesn't try and guss them up or romanticize either of them at all. When you see them shooting, you can definitely picture Mann having both of them practice a lot. When Bale at the starting, he gets a bead on Channing Tatum, which good on him. You really feel that Bale has spent a lot of time at the shooting range practicing with that gun. And kind of the through line is Dillinger meeting a woman played by Marianne. I can't pronounce her last name.
Cotillard?
Thank you. And their relationship is just as cold and impersonal as Dillinger's bank robbing. Probably the weakest part of the movie for me.
So initial reactions to this, people? Thomas, what do you make of this one then?
It's one of my least favorite Manns. And I think the things I respect in the film are just Mann attributes, things that Michael Mann brings to it. It is interesting that he's pushing the frontiers at the time of digital photography, coming off of this is around the same era as Heat and Ali for him. But to shoot a historical work without on digital is an interesting. Maybe it's successful, maybe it's not, but it is a choice, and he is definitely making that choice throughout the whole film versus going to a different medium.
It looks great.
Parts of it look good, yes.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I think visually it was very interesting. I like the direction.
Boaz and Martin, was it your first time watching?
No, I'd seen it before. I think it was one of those, I kind of bought it on DVD because I missed it in the cinema. I kind of watched it once and then was never really compelled to watch it again. I think for me, I enjoyed it a lot. I think, yes, Michael Mann was very much pioneering this digital era, but I feel like they weren't quite there yet with creating a great image at times with the digital cameras at the time. There's an adjustment period I think you have to make when you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, certainly the second half I enjoyed more than the first. Jack, what's your initial reactions to Public Enemies?
I love Public Enemies. I think it's one of Michael Mann's best films to me. and the central relationship between Marion Cotillard and John Dillinger is really great to me, and the thing that actually makes the movie stand out. And I love the set pieces. I think these are the best action scenes maybe Michael Mann has ever directed, which is saying a lot because he is one of the best directors of action probably ever.
Interesting. So directing then. So the opening scenes are quite jarring to me, not because of like the semi-documentary style during like the jailbreak, but something didn't feel right. And I didn't think it was just the digital photography, but the fact that it's playing at like 30 frames per second and not your normal 24 frames, which we're used to in a lot of other films. So it took me a while to adjust. Certainly a lot of the long lens shots in the film, they look pretty good, but some of the wide shots in like broad daylight, I'm not sure. Didn't look great. So for a period film shot on digital, I'm not sure that quite adds up for my taste. For me, if you're making a period film, you would not automatically go with a film stock, shoot it on film to get that kind of nice, smooth, magical quality. I know certainly nowadays you can replicate that, but in 2008, 2009, I'm not sure it was quite there yet. Do we agree with that, or
definitely
am I talking nonsense?
No, I disagree.
Okay.
Whoa.
I think at the time I saw it when it came out because I was always a Man fan. I hated the way it looked. It wasn't until rewatching it for the podcast that everything looks like Public Enemies now, and it's not as jarring because we're so used to it. Because most movies are shot on digital, most TV is shot on digital, and then within that, it still looks great. Okay. I was watching it this morning, and particularly the firefight at the cabins toward the end, one of Michael Mann's best shootouts, minus heat. The way the guns, the fire erupts, and the way he shoots in such dark light with being able to use digital is just fantastic.
That's one of the positives I would say about like digital filmmaking is certainly that firefight is pretty extraordinary. That's definitely my favorite scene. Just the gun flashes are really quite vivid. Yeah, and I'm not sure you could recreate that on film. I don't know, but certainly the digital photography, the fact that you can catch it so well, it just looked amazing, and some of the action stuff in that as well was great. Great uses of slow-mo as well in that scene where one of the feds is like roll. I think it's Stephen Lang. He rolls forward and fires his shotgun, does a forward roll, shoots his shotgun at Red and at Dillinger. And I love the scene where Babyface Nelson, played by the brilliant Stephen Graham, gets killed. Like he gets shot by Purvis with his pistol, then gets back up again, and another Fed like riddles him with bullets while he's firing his Tommy gun into the ground. Such a great visual death for me.
Oh, and just for physicality, when he gets shot by the pistol, you could see him like stumble, like whatever. Jack's our squib expert, but there is an impact there. There's a physicality to all that gunplay that happens. Those muzzle flares, the fire that you see coming off of it seems like it's all real from blanks and not added in post digitally.
Right.
And I think Mann's been trying to his whole career shoot things at night or shoot water in a way that looks infinite, and he's able to do that in this film.
Right.
For better or worse, in the service of the film, we can talk about that. But he is able to do, I think, what he's been trying to do since Manhunter, maybe even Thief.
Yeah, the look of the film is really great at night, and those scenes indoors, I think, with like the really orange lighting, everything that takes place at night looks great. I will agree that the scenes in the daytime do look a bit jarring sometimes, and there is something a little bit off about it. But yeah, that firefight at the cabin, that shootout, and then the short car chase afterwards is just like amazing.
Yeah, there's something. It's almost like a 7 green filter on the movie Seven. The filter on a lot of the film, and I'm not sure if that's to make it look aged or if that's part of just shooting in low light. But I think it almost has the Spielberg film Lincoln. I think it almost even has like a lighting problem, like that has. Where is it going to be modern? Is it supposed to look like today, or is it supposed to look like the past? And there's something where you're with the digital photography that it's kind of trying to have it both ways. And I think the best shots in this are the ones that are stationary shots and with great depth of focus. And whenever you start to move the camera and you start to have a steady cam, you start to edit a bunch. And the more you edit around in the digital, the more it looks like motion smoothing on a TV, that horrible preset that comes on so many of our televisions.
Mann's decision to shoot it in digital and give it a sense of immediacy and not with the varnished look that film would have given it in a lot of ways that period pieces are shot on film. And I think that his direction filters down to the acting with the two leads, where it is equally unvarnished. And that's probably to the credit of the movie. Both these guys seem like they're all in on what Mann is asking him to do.
I don't know if this was a digital thing or not, but I feel like at times it was quite claustrophobic. Like some of the characters were way too close to the camera. Like they were blocking the shot sometimes. I don't know if you guys felt that. There's like a simple shot where like Marion Cotillard walks into Dillinger's apartment and she's passing the camera and it's like her hair is in my face. I was like, whoa, what the hell? She was that close to the camera. I know it's supposed to be like this very like immersive experience, like you're actually there in this documentary style. But I was leaning back more than I was drawn in at times. I don't know. It did irritate me a bit, if I'm honest. I don't know if you guys felt that.
Yeah, this is definitely Mann's most, like he loves doing this thing where he'll have like these really great long shots and static shots where the camera's stabilized. And then when he wants to get really up close to someone, it'll be handheld and it'll be like in their face, almost like a wide angle lens kind of thing. And this movie, I think, has the most of any of his movies.
There's a lot of Miami Vice and there's a lot in Black Hat as well. But I think that in those films, you're in a different film. You're like in an action film and it's limited versus here that'll happen just in a general scene of them checking into a hotel.
Yeah.
It's not really done for affect.
I would say my favorite usage of that, where I think it enhanced the scene, was where Christian Bale is shooting that guy that's like running away.
Channing Tatum.
Yeah. So where they're chasing him, the camera is very unsteady because it's like they're literally running after him. And when it's on Christian Bale, it's steady. And I quite like that. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy is really exerting himself. He's trying to run for his life. And Christian Bale is steady as a cucumber. Like, this is easy. And he kills him. And I like that. But I kind of do agree that a lot of the time it just happens where it's like steady cam, very, precise, and then quite handheld. And sometimes it is quite jarring. You're like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
But I liked it in that instance where I'm like, I think that enhances the scene.
I think like the very like close-up style with the cameras works really well. When John Dillinger was breaking out of the Indiana prison, there's a shot.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Of Dillinger where he kicks open a door and the guard behind him gets like thrown back, literally nearly hitting the camera. That was like, whoa, okay.
100%. So good.
Yeah, and the action felt really intense as they were escaping. So it's just those shots in like simple talking scenes that bothered me a little bit.
The opening scene as well, that jailbreak, along with what Boaz just talked about with shooting Pretty Boy Floyd. I think that opening most of that is quite good. And then we get into a romance story, right? But there's something about being able to get that camera so close whenever Johnny Depp's character, also named Johnny, which is a little confusing at times. I think that people forgot that John Dillinger, they called him Johnny, when he's reaching down on the running board to the guy who's leaning out of the car, and it's cutting back and forth in the 180, seeing one and then flipping around to see the other. You're able to get so close to them, so close to the ground that you just couldn't do, or it'd be hard to push it that far with film. So that digital camera really frees him up to do some of those opening scenes or some of those shots that otherwise wouldn't be there. You had to be too far back, pulled too far back from it.
Right.
Favorite scenes or shots, people?
The cabin shootout. This has the most set pieces of any Michael Mann movie. We watched them all, and there are like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
It's almost like a clip reel.
Yeah. I would say definitely the cabin shootout is the highlight, and Michael Mann, of course, does his thing here that made Heat so successful, which is firing the actual guns and using the audio from that scene to create like the sound of like you hear a gunshot, and it's not like, in some movies the sound design of gunshots is not very impactful, but in this it is so loud and it just reverberates, and it definitely feels like there's this feel of actual guns being fired.
It's the on-set sounds were recorded, right?
Yeah,
especially in that second bank robbery, the one where everything goes south and the guy starts shooting people up. Every gun, because you have people shooting rifles on the top, you have their different Tommy guns and semi-automatic weapons, and then you have pistols, and they all have their own sound.
Yeah.
Each gun is almost a character, and you could for that scene.
Boaz, favorite shot or scene?
So I've got a few, I suppose. The cabin shootout, that's brilliant. Very great action scene, and even the death of John Dillinger. I like that whole scene.
Great use of slow mo in there. I quite liked.
Yeah, great use of slow mo. I think that's almost a perfect use of slow mo. Keep it limited and do it for like the most important thing in the entire movie. And also, his prison break, I quite like.
Which one?
So the second one, I think the second one is probably my favorite prison break.
Yeah,
with the fake gun. Is that the one with the fake gun?
With the fake gun.
Yeah.
Which really happened in real life, apparently.
Yeah, I actually think that was the only thing I knew about John Dillinger for a while. I think that was the first thing I'd ever heard about John Dillinger. I was watching this thing about like prison escapes, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, John Dillinger escaped prison with a fake gun." I was like, "What the hell?" Like he had carved a gun and was like, "Don't move." I was like, "That's crazy. That can't be real." That's some balls, though.
Thomas,
the final scene, which I really like, Lang and Cotillard. Just the reveal at the end that Dillinger had said something to him, but Lang kept it close to the vest and comes in, and their characters are some of the most man characters in that moment, as far as being able to control doing their duty and what they think is right, but also understanding that the world's a messy place.
So directing score, Boaz, what should we go for Public Enemies?
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking like 7s, 7.2, or was that too low?
That's too low.
Okay. It's just I'm not a big fan of the digital photography.
I think this is a disconnect between me and you, because you're always talking about digital versus film and great. I'm like, listen, man, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I do.
You're like, oh, you can tell this is digital. Can you? I don't know. Yes. I got no idea. So this is a big deal for you, not so much for me. Like, I would go maybe really high 7s. So like 7.7 or 7.8.
7.4. 7.5.
Let's do 5 and meet in the middle.
The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly. What are you going for?
10. No, I'm just kidding.
There was some skewing on this one that brought it all the way up to an 8.3.
Okay.
As a reminder, we did do a whole season dedicated to Man, so we have some real fans among us.
Yeah, actually, I reckon if it wasn't for you, Martin, probably I think it would. I think I would have put an 8. Actually,
okay.
I think I would have put an 8. I think so. Yeah.
All right. Not correct, but okay. So screenplay then. There's a lot of scenes that you would expect to see like in a gangster film in this one, but there's one near the end that I didn't see coming at all. When I think you mentioned it briefly, Ken, when Dillinger just walks into the Chicago Police Department and walks into like the investigation room dedicated to himself, half empty because they're all out preparing to catch Dillinger at the theater, at the cinema. And he sees pictures of him and all his gang now dead, most of them, on the walls. And I love the dialogue when he sees a load of feds listening to a baseball game and asks them what the score is. And I think it's just that thrill-seeking quality to his character that I quite like. And then throughout the film, there's this story that America is kind of using more scientific, methodical methods in the FBI to catch criminals helmed by J. Edgar Hoover. But at times, if they just open their eyes, Dillinger is like right under their nose, you know? So I kind of like that contrast the film creates between the feds and the criminals. There's definitely this undertone in the story that, you know, the FBI are very much under pressure to deliver. Whereas if they actually did just maybe what the cops would normally do, you know, they would have caught Dillinger a lot faster. I don't know. So, I did quite enjoy that aspect of the film.
Yeah. I also quite like that, you know, both sides, they make them, you know, very sympathetic and stuff. Like, you know, it's telling it, you know, properly from each side of the story. I thought that's quite refreshing. And also, like, even, you know, the whole trope of, like, the asshole boss and, you know, the head of the FBI being really overbearing. He wants results. And, you know, Christian Bale is getting a lot of pressure. But even, like, the FBI boss doesn't seem like such of a dick, because when you're first introduced to him, you see how much pressure he's under, where, you know, the US government is like, listen, you know, we're denying you, like, extra funds and all this. Were you ever a cop? Did you ever arrest anybody? And so you got the you know, kind of asshole boss. The first introduction you have of him is he's got, like, a mountain of pressure on his head. So I think that puts it a lot in perspective. You don't really see that in too many film narratives where the boss is just like a jackass or something. So I think it does try and, like, humanize as many characters as possible, and I think that's quite interesting.
Well, that particular scene is verbatim from the actual testimony, and there's a scene in the movie J. Edgar, Clint Eastwood's J. Edgar with Leonardo DiCaprio, taken from the same transcripts. It's really fascinating to watch both scenes just as a contrast of director and point of view.
That's right. I don't know how much about this movie is really that well written. I think I chalk a lot of the greatness up to Mann's direction. If there had been a different director with the same screenplay, I'm not sure how much I would really like it. Up until the ending, though, I think that the last 10 or 15 minutes is just brilliantly written. And that last scene with Stephen Lang's character is just some incredible writing. But again, that also might be because of the acting performances from Stephen Lang and Marion Cotillard. Yeah.
Yeah, I find the relationship between Melvin Purvis and Lang really interesting, because when Purvis realizes he needs more trained help to, like, take down Dillinger, who thinks, yeah, that's probably a good idea and seems very in charge of the investigation. But when Winstead arrives, he's always questioning Purvis's methods. But Purvis takes it on board and just continues with his own maybe rushed plan to capture Dillinger because he's under pressure from the Hoover and the FBI. And the FBI's reputation is on the line. But Winstead never pushes Purvis that he's doing it wrong, because I got the sense that he's very much aware of what's going on with the FBI now. It's a young man's game, and he's getting older. When Winstead shoots Dillinger and tries to listen to what is said to him, Winstead says to Purvis he didn't hear anything. But at the end, he meets Billy and says Dillinger's last words were, "Bye-bye, Blackbird." And it's like, if Winstead told Purvis what he had heard from Dillinger, it would mean nothing to Purvis, and it wouldn't allow Winstead to, and he wouldn't allow Winstead to see Billy, because I think for Winstead there's an element of respect towards the victims and that get caught up in this organized crime world, that these girls are still very much human beings in his eyes, and that Purvis wouldn't care so much about that. But you know, Billy would just be a picture on a wall for him, for the FBI to try and find a new lead or whatever. But saying that, like, I realized the other day that Purvis is a character that is very, like, caring to the victims as well, because you have that scene where the doofus FBI guy is just beating up Marion Cotillard, and then Purvis comes in to, like, save her effectively. So there is that kind of human aspect as well. So I don't know whether the character arcs are a tad muddled there. I'm not sure, but I found that interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Purvis gets even more muddled whenever, and of course he has Hoover's like stepping on his neck, trying to get him to get Dillinger, public enemy number one. But with immigration, it seems to be the biggest like change for me for Purvis, where he's willing to send that woman back to Romania and won't give her any type of guarantee that she won't be deported, but he will deport her within 48 hours if she doesn't give Dillinger up.
Yeah.
And so that cruelty seems to, it seems like so much is weighing on him. One interesting thing, given the end of the movie and the title cards we get that we don't see in the film itself, is that he quits the FBI and within, I believe, a year, takes his own life. And we don't quite get that. We get his frustration in the film, but I don't know if we get that.
It's certainly very much more of a subtle performance. Well, anything is more subtle than American Psycho. But,
that would have been a double whammy ending if they had ended with Dillinger getting killed and then said, and this is a year later with Christian Bale's character.
Yeah.
What's he up to?
And here's his chainsaw. No.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'll get into it a little more when we talk about acting, but the character Winstead, played by Stephen Lang, is like the perfect Michael Mann character, because Michael Mann loved doing this thing where he would have not really background, but side characters in his films that have like these really subtle character arcs that are really impactful by the end. Like the character or the actor with like third or fourth billing in his movies usually gets the best performance, I feel.
As you're watching it, Winstead and Purvis, there is a relationship there, but you never feel like it's central to this story until the very end when he reveals what she actually said when he kind of lied to Purvis previously. So I did really like the ending of this film. Favorite lines, people? For me, mine is from Johnny Depp when he's talking to Marion Cotillard. And he says, I like baseball, movies, good clothes, fast cars, whiskey, and you. What else you need to know?
That is perfect Michael Mann dialogue, and that is probably so literal to his character.
Yeah.
It literally is all he is.
Yeah. Jack, you got one? Or?
Yeah, just the ending line is pretty impactful.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mine is a bit different. Like, I kind of like witty lines, really, or, you know, incredibly dramatic soliloquies. But my favorite one was the conversation between Dillinger and Purvis when he's in the holding cell. And John says something like, oh, you know, I'm sorry about your friend that died. I heard he died in your arms. He says something like, oh, what was it? It keeps you up at night, doesn't it? And Purvis, you know, looks obviously very hurt and distraught, but then he smiles and he just says to John, he says, what keeps you up at night, Mr. Dillinger? And John just replies, coffee, and just like smiles. I think that is hilarious. That is really, really funny. Yeah. I thought that really cut the tension. I'm like, you're a smart ass, aren't you, Dillinger? You know?
Yeah, Dillinger is very much a character that feels like he's completely untouchable, even if he is in prison. He's like, well, I can get out. I just need to have some patience, but I will get out. You know?
Yeah. Because that was another scene where, you know, his girlfriend is pretty pissed off when they're at the horse races. So he's like, you know, what's the problem? And she's like, you're living so fast, you're going to die doing this. And, you know, he's like, you know, I'm not going to die. We're going to die as old people. Like, they're never going to catch me. But yeah, there's this sense of like invincibility. I also like that scene where you think he should have been caught, like in the cinema. I love that scene. That was actually a really good scene. I like that. Yeah. Just before the film starts, like they do a bulletin about like John Dillinger and show his picture, and he's right there. You know, I like that. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, if that doesn't show you're just invincible, I don't know what would.
Yeah. John Dillinger is public enemy number one. Thomas, you got a favorite line?
I like all the writing whenever Dillinger's attorney is getting him his manipulation of the locals, and what is it, like Indiana or Illinois where they take him, or wherever they that other state that they take him to. His manipulation of the court is a lot of fun. But I think I really like the opening of the film because Dillinger's being taken into prison. You find out you don't know who he is at first, but then the prison guard says, "Did I just like parole you out of here a few months ago?" And so you're thinking that he's going back to jail to stay. And then he gives the line
Yeah.
about, yeah, that's right, my friends call me Johnny, but you can address me as Mr. Dillinger. And boom, the action happens,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
I think it's a nice sequence of both giving the character's name, which you want in the very beginning of the film, and the fake out of the entire opening being that, no, he's not going to jail. He's breaking his buddies out.
It also gets you like immediately the sense of the man.
I could see it coming a little bit, though.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit obvious, but it was still pretty cool.
I think mainly because Jason Clarke is looking too shifty for me.
Yeah, you're like, he doesn't seem like a cop.
Johnny Depp is very cool, but like Jason Clarke is a bit nervous there.
Yeah, a little bit like that car scene for the Purvis character. For Dillinger, it's interesting that he loses everybody, right? He wants to go bust his buddies out of jail whenever they're meeting in the first movie, before the Looney Tunes, before they have that horrible bank robbery. And he loses everybody through that shootout in the woods. And then he loses his gal. And so he has nobody. By the time he's looking to do that train heist at the end, there's nobody for him, but we don't quite get that loneliness. There's not the, we don't quite get his complete desperation, isolation at that point, because he's really driven to the edge, and it's there in the text. It's just not really there on the screen.
Yeah, you definitely feel like when he is on his own, like there's a bit of like invincibility still about his demeanor.
Well, he goes into the Chicago police station when he drops the gal off to do her waitressing certificate or whatever that is. That's not a standard thing in the States, I don't think. It's something that some business they needed to get him into jail. The police office doesn't issue a lot of the licensures for food handlers in the States. That's, at least not now.
I think that's definitely one thing that's very deep in his character that Depp brings is this just sense of thrill seeking that, I'm just going to walk into the police department, whether he has a load of friends backing him up or not, There's a thrill seeking, adrenaline rush seeking aspect to this character, which is ever present, I would say. So screenplay score, Boaz, what should we go for? Yes, this is kind of based on a lot of historical events. I enjoyed it in the end. I think the screenplay for me is probably the best aspect of this film. Like an 8.3 or something? 8.5? What do you think?
Like a 7.9?
All right, you don't want to go 8? Did the end? I think the end is really good. I really enjoyed the end of that reveal.
I think the end is pretty good. Yeah. Okay, maybe an 8. Then.
Talked him into it.
The good, the pod, and the ugly. What are you going for?
I don't know. Do we need to do you need to approach the bench there, Ken? we had significantly lower than that for our aggregate average score. Yeah, we ended up giving this a 6.7.
Oh,
ooh,
wow. That is sharp.
Okay, why a 6.7? So.
I think it was. I like the movie quite a bit, and that was the lowest score of all three categories, and it was because it's a bit messy and not necessarily in a good way.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, what's there is great, but there's a connectivity to some of it that I think just didn't work for me.
Yeah, a large part of this is like a love story without it really being earned on the film. In the film, I guess, like it seemed like it was too much emphasis was placed there, maybe in the script, and then there just really isn't anything like you said. It's kind of like a paint by the numbers gangster film aside from the end.
Yeah, I did enjoy like Marion Cotillard's role in this. There was a sense for me as well that yes, there's a beginning of a love story, and then it kind of just isn't one when he goes to prison, goes to jail. But I was still fairly engaged with what was going on with the feds trying to catch John Dillinger.
A lot of great stuff there. I think maybe if there had been another edit to tighten some of that up.
Maybe, yeah. I think also for me as well that for me personally, I felt that there was quite a lot of chemistry between Marion Cotillard and Johnny Depp. So I didn't mind so much their scenes. I felt it. So acting, you mentioned it briefly, Bowers, but I quite like the acting from Johnny Depp when he's at the cinema with his friends and before the movie starts, there's like an announcement that John Dillinger is public enemy number one. The lights turn on, and Hoover asks everyone to turn their head to the left and right, as he could be in your row. But everyone's turning their head apart from Johnny Depp, who just keeps looking forward. And he's just like smiling, like he's enjoying the thrill of people trying to spot him, you know. Again, this kind of thrill-seeking thing that he gets off on. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. Any other acting moments we like, people?
I have a question for you all before we talk about that. Thomas and I just did an episode about the Michael Mann's novel, Heat 2.
Okay.
And Michael Mann has, it's both a prequel and a sequel to the movie. Michael Mann has talked about wanting to make a massive film out of it. And I was wondering what you all think of Johnny Depp playing Vincent Hanna and Christian Bale playing Neil McCauley in that movie. Could you see it?
You know, I really like, you know, Depp's performance in this, but I'm not like a massive fan of Depp.
Yeah.
I would definitely cast Christian Bale in Heat 2. I'm not sure about Depp, though.
Okay.
I agree with that. Yeah. And I don't think Depp is particularly that great in Public Enemies either. I think I think that's actually one of my least favorite things about the film is if someone else had been cast as John Dillinger, I don't know who, but I think I would have been a lot more engaged. I don't think he's bad at all. I just don't think he chews the scenery enough. That one scene in the movie theater is great with that little like knowing smile that he has, that he's getting away with this, but
he does have a great cheeky smile.
Yeah.
You know?
he's a bit bland, and Christian Bale is great as always, but I don't think he's really given a whole lot to do here.
I love the acting from Marion Cotillard when she's being tortured by one of the desperate federal agents. There's moments where she's really losing control in her breathing, and it's quite extraordinary to watch when she's like telling him that he walked right past Dillinger, you know, the scene before. There's this amazing, like, painful glee about her when she's saying you literally walked past him, you know. So I really do like Marion Cotillard in this, even though she's not in it much, but I think she's brilliant.
Same. She was best performance in this, I think.
If we discount accent, then I think you're correct. There's times, especially the more that she becomes worked up, the less close to an American accent it becomes. And even if like one of her parents is French and the other one is Native American, and she was raised, I don't know, on old timey radio, and has some hearing difficulties, like still, her enunciation is not American. The emphasis is on the wrong syllables.
My favorite thing with Christian Bale is where he's asking for more reinforcements, or he needs a different team on the phone. I quite like that. It's subtle, and it's just like, you know, I've seen somebody die, they've escaped, this is fucked up, but trying to be very, very professional and respectful on the phone while still being like, you know, this is fucking ridiculous. You know, you're making me do something impossible. And I think Christian Bale can always do that pretty well, of like seem like he's putting on a facade and his real emotion cracking through. And I think he does that pretty well there. So I like that scene with him.
There's a great scene where that emotion breaks through whenever they have the two tails out in the car, tracking Cotillard, and she escapes. She gives him the slip by dressing up as a man and slipping through by having a double come in. And then those two mopes from the car come in, FBI agents who let her go. And he sees them and he realizes, like, oh, they're not tailing her. Therefore, she slipped
she's
them,
gone.
And all that loss, because she's the one thing that Dillinger still has, right? The one hope he has of catching him is to be able to find her, is to be able to like track her and wait. They just have to wait. It's a waiting game.
Yeah,
and he's absolutely right. But they let the bait off the hook, and his loss in his face at that point is amazing.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, just with one look, he can convey like, "Oh shit," you know, but just complete despair in like 2 seconds. But he does it again, like not trying to telegraph it too well. Like he's still in the middle of a conversation with his lackeys, you know, which is muted, and he's trying to smile, like, yeah, confident, but you can just feel it. Oh God, what have we done?
Yeah, because you can definitely tell in his performance that, like, Stephen Lang should be leading this here, not me.
Yeah.
Well, you guys don't have Texas Rangers out in your neck of the woods, but I am from Texas, and, despite the accent. And the motto is "One riot, one ranger." Like, you have a problem, you have something going down, you just send one guy, right? One ranger. That's all you need.
Nice.
And Lang could have done all that by himself, probably.
I do like the atmosphere of Lang. It's just his atmosphere. Like, you just feel like he's the hardest motherfucker in the universe.
Yeah.
He just has to walk into a room. You're like, yeah, this is the guy. This is the guy you send after Dillinger. And that's a pretty good president.
I want him in Heat too.
Yeah, he's got a really good presence.
Yeah, he is fantastic. His scene with Marion Cotillard at the end is makes the movie for me. It's the best. It's the best acting by far.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, it's also pretty cool that he gets quite a touching scene at the end, despite being like just a solid badass, like he's made out of marble and stone and nails or something. And yet he has a pretty damn touching scene at the end. I think that's quite good.
Bale in particular, he does exactly what Mann asks him to do. I never feel like it's that Johnny Depp versus Christian Bale and that he went over the script to make sure he had equal lines. He played the character as written, and I think that's a testament to Bale kind of being a great character actor who kind of stumbled into being a leading man. But he has really kept to that throughout his career, where you look at somebody like Russell Crowe, who is now a character actor, but he kind of got sucked into a leading man pit. People like Leonardo DiCaprio makes one movie every 5 years because he's a leading man, and Bale's ability to work with a director, obviously directors work with him time and time again. And I think it's a real testament to him as an actor being true to the script and not demanding more.
Is he your favorite performance in this film for you, Ken?
Yeah, I like his accent.
Yeah.
He's amazing with American accents.
Yeah.
He's done a lot, and they're all great.
It slips just a little bit during that shootout scene when he sees somebody coming into the car and he's anxious. He's trying to yell something out. It's not even English, I don't think. It's just like glossophilia. It's like he's speaking in tongues. It's really hard. I had to go and switch the subtitles from French to English. I watch it in French whenever it feels like homework. So watching it again felt like homework this way.
Yeah.
Jack, what's yours?
It would be a tie between Stephen Lang and Marion Cotillard, but probably Stephen Lang. I think he's really cool.
Yeah.
Thomas?
I mean, Stephen Lang, hands down, but I want to give some recognition to Depp, especially in the scene where he and the equivalent of the diner scene from Heat, where you have Christian Bale and Depp meeting for the first time face to face. That scene in the jail, unfortunately, Bale doesn't have much to do, but I think Depp really brings something special to that scene. He chews enough of the scenery there to make it work.
Okay.
I think for me, I'll probably go Marion Cotillard. I think when she is on screen, she's the best actor in the room for me, and especially that torturous scene she's on the end of. She's extraordinary for me. So yeah, I would go her. Boaz, you worked out which is your favorite performance yet?
I think I'm going to be unique, and I'll go Bale. Give him some love.
So acting score for us, what should we go with? 8.3? Or a high 7?
8.9.
8.9.
Yeah, maybe 8.5.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
The good, the pod, and the ugly, what are you going for?
Well, we settled into a respectable 8.5 as well.
Oh,
awesome.
Cool.
Wow. Great minds think alike.
We are thinking alike.
Yeah.
Right, let's add up the scores then for Public Enemies. So, Public Enemies gets 47.5.
Not bad.
Pretty good.
So, American Psycho has brought its axe down on Public Enemies and wins this one.
What was the final score?
Public Enemies got 47.5. American Psycho 53.3.
Sounds about right.
Nah.
There will be blood tonight.
Next episode, as Black Panther Wakanda Forever is out, we'll be talking MCU Phase 4 films. So could be some low scores. And hopefully we'll have guests from the Obsessed Couple Pod, The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly. You have been amazing. This is your opportunity again to talk about your podcast. And where can we find you?
I forgot what we're doing this season right now. So
we're doing Meryl Streep movies this season.
Okay, that's right.
We also did a Dennis Hopper Halloween episode that's coming out, and then we did Heat 2, Thomas and I.
Mm-hmm.
And then next season we're doing a 4x4, and then after that our Squib season. Is that right?
Maybe. I don't know.
And then Aronofsky.
Yeah, maybe Aronofsky in there. Yeah. So, yeah, we're fast approaching our 100th episode, which will be coming out during the Streeps of Fire, or Meryl Streep season, which is the one that we're currently on. If you listen back recently, we've been doing a lot of VHS films from the 70s, watching them on VHS so you can get the nice texture and grit and the nice cropping of action from the scene as you go. From a different aspect ratio.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I watched Halloween, Carpenter's Halloween, I saw it on VHS, and that was just like the scariest film I've seen. Way too young seeing it, but like because it was on VHS and so grainy, I was like, it just added to the scariness for me.
Wow. That's amazing.
It seems like for those older movies, that those scary older movies, they should have an audio track that includes the whine of the tape being played as well.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've heard that.
Yeah. So, guys, it's been amazing having you on our podcast. It's goodbye from Ken. Goodbye.
Bye.
Jack.
Bye.
And Thomas. Goodbye.
Adios.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That was fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And it's goodbye from our resident British psycho. You've got time now to give back your videotapes. It's fine. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's it for part 2. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 1 if you haven't done so already. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.